Hi guys, it's Michelle Knight from Little Miss Bookkeeping, and today I wanted to run through a form you might already be familiar with, and that is how to complete your super form or your Standard Choice Superannuation Standard Choice Form. So it looks something like this. It's something that you'll complete when you start a new job, and as an accountant, I do see these get completed incorrectly. So I thought it would be a good idea to just quickly run through some of the details. So if you're interested in learning more, please keep watching. Okay, so typically you will complete your super form when you commence a new job, and you will generally be given this at the same time as your TFN declaration. So I've created another video going through this little baby, but a new employer will give you these forms together, so you'll complete these both at the same time. The reason why you will complete this form is so your employer can pay super into the right super fund. Now, there are all different types of super funds, different industry funds, self-managed super funds, and it's essentially directing your employer to put your super in the right account. So what I'm going to do is quickly run through this pack, and then specifically the 3 pages that you will complete and send back to your employer. Okay, so what I've got in front of me is the super form, which is about 7 pages long, I believe. The first few pages, again, like the TFN declaration, is just some little some information about how to complete, and information as to where you might be able to direct you to find out some more info. So I'm just going to quickly go through these just like an FYI, and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty part of the Superannuation Standard Choice Form, or in short, your super form. So your super form is typically 3 pages long, 1, 2, and 3. So you'll complete all 3 pages, and I just wanted to run through each section of the page and what it sort of means in layman's terms, because again, ATO forms can be a little bit confusing. The terminology you might know is like another term, so let's just break that down quickly right here, right now. Okay, so when you get your super form, you'll tick one of these 3 boxes. So the first one in layman's terms is you're going to nominate a super fund. So when I remember years and years ago when I first completed this form as a 14, 15-year-old, I'm thinking, what's an APRA fund, retirement savings account? Okay, I'm not sure if I have one of them. Self-managed super fund, I definitely don't have one of them. Or you can get your employer to put it in a default fund of their choosing. So long story short, if you have any sort of industry fund already set up, you can go ahead and tick this box and then complete sections 2, 3, and 5. If you have a self-managed super fund, you can go ahead and tick this box and complete sections 2, 4, and 5. Now, just be aware that some industry funds have this terminology called, part self-managed, and I've had conversations with people saying, "Oh no, Michelle, my super self-managed. Oh, it's with Sun Super, and they let me like part self-manage my super fund." So I know some industry funds allow you to do that, or retail funds, but at the end of the day, that is not a self-managed super fund by default according to this form. So just be aware that even though your fund may be like, you might be able to select different investments or like select different like portfolios, it's actually not a full managed self-managed super fund. And you will know if you have a self-managed super fund. They're not cheap, they're not easy to set up. You've got a lot of compliance during the year, and typically you need a lot of money or you should have a lot of super to roll into a self-managed super fund. So you will know if you have one of these more often than not. If you're not sure, you probably don't have one. And then lastly, if you don't have a super fund already and you just want your employer to choose a default fund, you can tick this. This would be most common in situations where you might be a teenager, young adult, and it's your first employer ever. You might just go, oh, you know, can you just set up super for me? And that's all cool. So that's the third option there. So if we go down, so section 2, you'll have to complete this. So name and TFN. If you have some sort of employee identification number, typically a lot of people don't fill this out because they don't have one, but in the case that you might, you can complete that. Okay, so let's get to section 3. Now, retail industry funds, we're talking the guys like Sun Super, Rest, QBCC, all those really common funds that you've heard of, you know about, you're already a part of it, your friends are a part of it. This is where you'll complete the details. So you'll have to find the ABN, the name, and all these other details. Now, the most important ones as an accountant that we'll need to rely on is the fund ABN, the name, and a USI and member number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is really important because some super funds have lots and lots and lots of different, I don't know if the right term is portfolios, but different type of super options with different USI numbers. For example, Sun Super, I think, only has one where they have just one USI. There's big super funds that have lots and lots of different USIs. I think maybe Rest, I was setting up a payroll for a new client and setting up all their super settings for employees. And if this section isn't completed correctly, it gets really frustrating and confusing as the payroll person. If this is not completed correctly, and then the member number is equally as important. So for example, back in the day, I used to be a part of Sun Super. I would find the ABN online. You can usually do a Google search for them. It's typically quite easy to find on their website. And if not, if you have like online access to your super, you should be able to find those details pretty easy. So if you're really unsure, I would suggest getting in contact with your super fund directly. So for example, if you Google Sun Super, it would actually give you your ABN, you'd write in Sun Super, they'll have some standard address and the USI connected to your super fund and the member number. If we don't, now I'll make a really important point as to why the member number is so important for the payroll person. If this number is wrong, and if when it comes to paying your super, what sometimes happens, and this really varies based on the fund, and if this number is not correct and doesn't quite match the person who's listed on the top of the form, it can sometimes bounce. So sometimes it's rejected by the fund. And it gets really frustrating for business owners, bookkeepers, accountants, is because one, we don't like to see super bounce, because then we've got like the business owner is going to have to repay it. Then we fall into issues of super not being paid on time and penalties and interest and that sort of thing. So this is why I stress to you getting this information right. And if you're not sure, finding out. Just don't leave that blank. Write in, I don't know, Rest Super, and leave everything else blank. Like, that's just not going to help anyone, and it's going to make the bookkeeper or payroll person like pull their hair out. Like, trust me, because that's what I have to do sometimes. So let's go to the next page. So if you have a self-managed super fund, you will complete this form, and I always get the person, whoever's completing this form, just to provide some additional info confirming that these details are correct, because you've got to ensure that the super's been paid into the correct super fund. And because self-managed super funds are set up personally, you know, and they're all sort of like private funds, we don't want it like not getting into the right bank account, if that makes sense. Electronic, and I'll just point out one of the things that people don't complete, don't understand, or don't get right, which makes it again really frustrating for the payroll person when they're setting super funds up in the back end of an accounting software. If they don't have all the data, they're going to pull their hair out, and it's just not a fun time. The biggest mistake that I see when people are completing this section of the form when they have a self-managed super fund is they don't know their ESA, their electronic service address. The best place to check this is to ask your accountant or ask or the person who set up your self-managed super fund, because this is really important. For example, when you set the self-managed super fund up in the back end of the Xero, if you don't have an ESA, it kind of doesn't let you set it up. This all comes back to like the compliance and making sure it goes back as any super contributions go through a clearinghouse, and this is important. So please put the right details in there. You know, from me and all the bookkeepers and accountants and payroll people, like, get that right. Okay, and then the last bit is you will sign the form, date it, and that's pretty much it. Let's quickly just jump onto the last page, and that will be for your employer to complete. So no problems there. As you've probably noticed, if you've completed this section, there's nowhere for you to complete anything else, because your employee is just going to pick a default fund and you'll have super set up. And I'm sure once the first round of super has been paid into your account, you'll probably get a nice little letter from whatever super fund that is, saying, hi, welcome to X super fund, you know, here's your member number and details on how to contact us and maybe set up your online account. So that's pretty much how to complete your superannuation standard choice form in a nutshell. If you have any specific questions around this, I do suggest you speak to a tax professional, because everyone's circumstances are different. If you have liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It does help me provide more valuable content to you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!